almost feels like a loss. It almost feels like a loss. I hate the fact that I'm right. The fact that Manchester United, that was my prediction, 2-2. 2-0 at half-time. Man, we were cruising. That was second gear. Man United in total control. But wow, did that second half flip. Wow, did the subs have a negative impact on that performance. Wow, what are you doing, United? Come on. That could have been top 4, out of sight, out of mind. Instead, we've given Spurs the opportunity to still think, maybe, you know what? No, Spurs were absolutely abysmal in that first half. United were more abysmal in the second half than Spurs were in that first half. And to have that game, man, it seemed so easy in that first half. The football was sexy. It was easy. Goal in the first 10. The Spurs crowd booing them off at half-time. United 2-0 up, scored the second 5 minutes before half-time. Everything was in our hands. And everything went out of our hands. And I'll tell you what, it's just another example of Manchester United away from home this season. Another example of Manchester United so many times this season. You can count, honestly, on one hand, the amount of games where United have controlled a full 90 minutes. Whether it's sometimes having a good first half or sometimes having a good second half. Rarely do we get them back-to-back in the same game. That there was a totally dominant first half. But in that second half, it was subs that made a difference there. Now, are you going to be a person that has a go at Ten Hag for that? Or are you going to have a go at the individuals that came on? I'll tell you who I'm particularly angry at for that game there. I'm going to talk about Casemiro and I'm going to talk about Fred. Right? Casemiro and Fred, for me, in that second half, that was where the big problem was. Control. Look, if Man United aren't scoring enough goals, I'm going to have a go at our goal scorers. If Man United are conceding too many goals, I'm looking at our defence. If Manchester United are not controlling a game management, I'm looking at our midfield, where it all runs from. And I'm looking at Fred when he came on that second half. Came on for Eriksen. I think he came on for Eriksen. Let's have a quick look there. Came on for Eriksen in the 60th minute. He was supposed to control the game. Control the ball. Take the sting out of Spurs. Instead, he gave it to Spurs with a knife and fork. I think every single pass he did, it went to the opposition. I didn't understand it. That's why Fred can't play in a midfield pivot. If Fred does play for United, has to play further forward. Simple as that. Malacia coming on. Look, that goal that they scored, what was it? Not long, headed back. All of a sudden, Kane's in behind, finds Son, who managed to scuff his finish, but still scored. Weghorst coming on for Anthony. The balance left. As soon as Anthony leaves this team, the balance leaves. It does. And to go from that in the first half to that in the second half, I think all of us had this pose. When Bruno went through, the most utterly disgusting little flick through the legs, I think it was of Dyer, the goal at his mercy. Hit the bar. That was, 30 seconds after Spurs got one goal back. That would have buried the game right there. All Manchester United needed to do was see that game out. We did all the hard work in the first half. It was absolutely glorious football. Yes, Spurs sat off us, and when United aren't pressed as a team, there's so much quality in that team. We can play through teams. Eriksen and Bruno had so much time on the ball, and it was great. The goal from Sancho, one touch on the inside, no hesitation. He's always been hesitating in those positions this season. Great goal. Rashford, great finish. Bruno, lovely pass to Rashford. Those three in the first half, sexy. And then limp in that second half. Who do you look towards? I'm not talking about scapegoating. I'm saying, look, if you're going to assess that game, where are you picking holes in? I think people are going to question Ten Hag's subs. And I'm going to say that the subs definitely had a negative impact in that game. But Ten Hag has to rely on his subs. It's more it's not a reality check. It's yet more evidence of the lack of squad depth, the difference between the starting 11 and the second 11. It's just not there. Weghorst coming on the 71st minute, man. And the best thing he did was win the ball at left back for Malacia. I was a Weghorst fan when he came on and did a job early this season. But it goes to show the gulf of quality that exists between that starting 11 and the second 11. Anthony, whenever he goes off, right now he's pretty much irreplaceable. That's the way I would look at Anthony in this team. And Marcus Rashford scoring his 29th goal, I was so convinced he was going to get that shot on target. When the ball dropped 85th minute onto his foot, you think, just went over. But that's infuriating. It really was a truly abysmal second half. Because Spurs, they didn't have it. Spurs were begging for a goal, and they got it because of a scrappy ball there. Where is it? Porro, boom. It was a scrap. Every single time we had a set piece, we looked completely non-threatening. Every time they had a set piece, they looked threatening. But I thought the game was going to be dead and buried. I really, really did. Bruno Fernandes, I don't know how he started tonight, but not only did he start, he completed the full 90. And not only did he complete the full 90, he was probably our best player on the pitch. You could either him or Luke Shaw. I'd say Bruno and Shaw, the two players that come out with real credit from that game. Shaw, as a centre-back, he shouldn't be as good as he is. That's Spurs away. I mean, you might say that we just conceded 2, so you're going to have a go at Luke Shaw, right? But I think overall, he did his job tonight. Man United, as a collective defence, that lack of control, man. That lack of control. Ten Hag's got to be pissed. Am I going to sit there and point the finger at Ten Hag for that? I don't think I am. Maybe you might say that's just because I'm being naive and supportive of him. But we played 120 minutes against Brighton at the weekend, right? Players were knackered. It was obvious we were going to be making subs. But the drop-off. Startling. We need not only a strike. Look, Harry Kane had a mustard performance tonight. It's almost like he's a good footballer. Who possibly knew that? Everybody. He was dropping so deep because Spurs didn't create anything, and he created. He was basically the reason they came back in that second half. But Sancho going off for Martial. Yeah. That's the way he played in that when he came on. Weghorst coming on for Anthony. It's a severe drop-off. Fred on for Eriksen was probably the thing that, in my opinion, I would say that's where the control left. Fred, I don't get it. Fred masterclass against Spurs at Old Trafford and a Fred disaster class away at Spurs. Different types of positions and different types of performances. When Fred is used in the position where he's aggressive on the edge of the opponent's box, great. That's where Fred is good. Not when you want to control and see a game out. I haven't got a picture of him here. As I said, I personally am really looking at Casemiro and saying, why couldn't you have taken more control of that game, dude? Why? So, last few games, Casemiro is definitely he's just been a bit short. He's looking more like the Casemiro who played for the first couple of months at United, rather than the Casemiro who played, after the World Cup? Yeah, before the World Cup. He's looking a bit shady right now. And that lack of control is directly correlated to that. As I said, when Anthony went off, something leaves this team. An energy, a directness that we just can't replace on that right wing. And whenever Anthony goes off, there's nobody there you could say that Pellistri could have come off the bench instead. Pellistri for Anthony, would that have been instead of Weghorst for Anthony? I think that's a question that you can ask, actually, now that I think about it in real time. Because Weghorst, I just can't believe that we've done that. Ultimately, is it a game which causes a stratospheric nuclear problem to our season? No, it does not. Right, we're still 6 points ahead of Spurs. We still have 2 games in hand on Spurs. But that could have been the end of it. That could have been like, poof, let's just cruise into the Villa game now. Now we've got Villa at home. Villa are bouncing. 4 wins in 5. 5th in the league. 6th in the league now. It's going to be a tough game. And then we've got Brighton away. So next 2 games, we've got 6th and 8th. We didn't need to make this difficult for ourselves. Unfortunately, United have got a bit of a habit of that, haven't we? If that was Man City and they were 2-0 up, you would have just been like, all right, game, set, match. United, you just can't rely on it. No matter how good we look at halftime, there's not a guarantee that the same team's going to come out and just see it through in the second half. And it's just not happened enough this season. It just hasn't. Thrown away leads. Is that the second week in a row that we've thrown away a 2-0? I can't remember on the spot. Infuriating. As I said, I think Ten Hag's going to be questioning the subs. It's not a reality check, but it's yet more evidence of the lack of quality when you take those players out of the first team. There just isn't the backups in that squad to keep and maintain that level. And in my opinion, I think we're looking at Fred and Casemiro as the big problem there in that game. They just weren't good enough. The control wasn't there. And that let Spurs into the game. And they were not that good, man. Kane was a difference maker. They took a couple of chances towards the end. They shouldn't have been anywhere near that game. It should have been dead and buried by the time they scored 1. 2 points dropped. Still in our hands completely. But my. That was infuriating to watch in the second half.